So thanks, Seth and Sarah. It's actually kind of funny. So I am during this talk, I'm going to keep the Twitch stream open. So I want to keep this a little bit collaborative. And Matt, I don't know how to respond to your question. Um, I don't think I'm a big name. I'm pretty sure I'm not. So we will have more big names here in just a little bit. But as I was going through this. The stream of yes, I am actually really watching Twitch. I promise. It's right here over in the side. Although I can't see me, so I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing. So I also don't multitask. I'm going to just call that out right now. So while I'm reading the Twitch comments, I can't speak and do it at the same time, and that's just going to be how it is. Okay, so anyway, this is this. I'm going to try and keep this a little bit interactive as much as possible. There's a little bit of a delay between when I speak and when something pops up, and so. It might take me a minute to respond to you, but we'll work through this. Okay, so the point of this talk, I've been talking about this stuff for a little while, and the point of this talk ultimately is things change fast. It was actually kind of fun listening to some of the talks we've heard today. Talking about the history of computing or learning different languages, or there's all of these things that change all the time. And usually I talk about conferences quite a bit, and conferences are a little bit of a struggle. But for this talk, we're going to do the quarantine edition of this talk because what's been interesting is as I've talked to people around the world that are quarantined. Everybody seems to be quarantined, whether you're in Africa or you're in Asia or South America, North America, wherever you are. People are quarantined and they're having to find this. I hate to use the term new normal. I hear people say new normal and it makes me cringe. I don't want this to be normal, but it is what we're dealing with right now. So what I want to work through is some things that we can do while in quarantine, while not in quarantine, just whenever, to kind of keep up with what's going on in our lives, all right, and in technology, because things change so fast. It's kind of ridiculous. So first of all, my groups of friends that are quarantined kind of fit into two categories. I hear about all of these people who they're like, "Yay, we've got lots of free time now. Nothing's. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anything to do. I can just hang out on my couch and do some work." And I kind of fall into this bucket. So I'm just painting so you know where I'm coming from. My kids are high school age. They are home, but they just go kind of do their school, right? And so I get to sit in a chair. That's actually why I'm standing right now, is because I found myself sitting in a chair 12 hours a day in front of my laptop, just kind of doing stuff and playing with things. And so this is one group of people. So if you kind of sit in this vein, you've got lots of time. There's no social engagements in the evening anymore. You've got all kinds of time to do stuff. Or you could be more in this group, where so my friend Jeff and I tend to do a lot of things together. Jeff has very young children. His days are done, right? Because he's got to help homeschool a kindergartner and a young elementary schooler, and he doesn't have a lot of time to do daily work, let alone other stuff. And so we want to. I want to kind of give everybody some ideas of what they can do and, and how they can do that. So, and that's kind of the thing for people who are in this situation, right? And enjoy the moment while you can, right? So you're being forced to spend some extra time with the small kids and family. Like, enjoy it, because as somebody who has old kids, that's not going to last very long, right? Okay, so here's what we got. Just for the record, I've seen some people in Twitch, and we've kind of all talked about development a lot, but in the software development world, developer is only a small portion of what it takes to produce software and get things out the door. So if you're a developer, that's cool. QA analysts. I saw the quality in here in the Twitch stream. So super excited that you're here. So we've got some QA analysts in here. If you're project manager or DevOps or designers, thanks B Popster. If you're a designer, I link kind of designers and that into that developer role. You guys might just stop listening to me right now, but yeah, there's so much there. So here's what I want to do. First of all, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about where I'm at, and yeah, actually, so I want to call this out. So for people who aren't Twitch, before I get to that, Surly Dev says there's so much great content on Twitch, and I'm going to talk about that specifically here in just a little bit. It's not just Twitch, but there's so much content on the internet for you to learn with your kids, for your kids to learn on there. There's just so much. Okay, but I've been doing this for a long time. I crossed the 20-year mark a while ago. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. And I have seen a lot of stuff going on. So a little bit about my journey, right? I started life as a mumps developer. And I will be a little surprised if there are more than a handful of you who are watching this who even know what mumps is besides a disease. Ironically, mumps is a software development language for hospitals and the healthcare system, although they do a little bit in financial as well. So it's just kind of fun. Yep, that's exactly right. Healthcare system, Surly Dev. So mumps is they got classy and kind of amped things up when I started doing mumps. They were M, just drop the umps, and they were M for a little while. So then I started Delphi. I did VB and C Sharp. I was a Java developer. I've been a .NET developer. I'm a JavaScript developer now. I've got the JavaScript shirt on. I've kind of morphed my technology stack over and over and over again throughout my career. And that was actually one thing that I loved hearing DHH say earlier during his talk was diversify your ego. Basically, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, things change, and you have to be able to move and adjust as you go, and don't tie yourself to one thing. So I very rarely classify myself as a developer of any sort. I say I'm a developer. I'm a technologist, and the thing I happen to be doing right now is JavaScript and Azure. I'm actually now doing mostly cloud architecture on the Azure side right now. So that's kind of how I've morphed and merged over time. All right, who remembers jQuery? So jQuery is actually still around, but it used to be back when you wanted to do JavaScript and you had to make your button move, or you wanted to make things collapse. So all you had to do on your web page was you take it HTML, you take jQuery, you'd plug it in there, and you had a whole long string of dots after your parentheses, and then right, and it just made things work, and it was awesome. And except everybody hated it at the time, but it was simple, it was easy, there was not a lot to it, it was pretty great. Things are harder now. Right now, if you want to write JavaScript on the front end or the back end, or you want to do things everywhere, it's not quite that easy. Actually, what's kind of funny, I was talking to Jess White earlier when I was doing some MC, and it's not just so I'm a JavaScript developer. I am not a front end developer, like, not at all. I will do JavaScript in the browser. Like, I can do some React. I did Angular for a while. Don't ask me to do HTML and CSS. Like, that's a separate thing in development. And yeah, I don't like that. I'm not good at it because I haven't really invested myself, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But it's harder now because, first of all, we're JavaScripting all the things. Okay, let me put it this way. So I'm a JavaScript developer. I have been involved in JavaScript projects on the client, building big frameworks and systems for front end React applications, and that was awesome. I'm a Node.js developer. I do a lot of stuff on the back end with GraphQL and Express and some other things. I've built enterprise level applications, Node.js on the back end. Watches, phones, React Native on the phone, right? All of this stuff is happening in JavaScript right now. And what's funny to me is I see people like, oh, I hate I hate JavaScript. Well, it's tough. You got to deal with it. So talk to me, Gooseman. Is you're one slide ahead of me. So give me just a second. We are going to get exactly right there. So so here's the thing. If you are a developer in today's world, chances are, based upon Stack Overflow numbers or just any, chances are you have run into JavaScript. But here's the reality of JavaScript. I love this tweet, and it's old, but it has aged well because it doesn't matter when I throw this tweet up or where in the world I am. This happens. This is killing me. That setting up a JS project is so damn hard. It took me an entire evening last time. And actually, I say this tweet aged well. If you can set up your entire JavaScript environment in an evening in today's world, you are doing it so well, right? Because for me, it can take a little while by the time you get all of the pieces and everything plugged in, and it's only getting harder and harder and harder to get everything working. As a matter of fact, so talk to me, Guzman. Here's kind of what you were talking about, right? So you got Sass, you've got Karma, Protractor, TS-Lint, Jasmine, TypeScript, Auto Prefixer, Webpack, Angular, you've got React, you've got all of these other things that now you have to know. So if you want to be a JavaScript developer, you don't just have to know the language JavaScript, right? You've got to know all of this stuff. And so I say I'm a JavaScript developer, and people will walk up to me and they will ask me questions about Sass. I'm like, I don't know anything about that, right? I haven't really looked at it. I do other things, or Jasmine. I don't do Jasmine. I do Mocha. Mocha is my tool of choice. I don't know the difference between those things, and so it's kind of this big churn through. As a matter of fact, so check this out. In 2018, this is a year and a half ago. This was the path. So somebody put out on the internet, choose your path to be a web developer in 2018. Notice you got front end, you got back end, and you got DevOps. Yellow was personal recommendations. Gray is possible, and then you can pick any of the list. And before you even start, like, it looks like that's a key on the left side of the screen. It's not. Like, that's things you have to know in order to even start being a web developer. We haven't picked a language yet even, and you've got to understand Git, you got to understand SSH, you got to understand how to use the terminal, you got to know data structures, you got to know all this stuff beforehand. And it's not just enough to know Git, you also have to know GitHub. Like, come on, right? But then we get into what it means to be a front-end developer. Blazor. Okay, we're not even going to talk about Blazor. So, because you'll notice it's not on this slide anywhere. So first, you've got to learn the basics. So as a front-end developer, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You've got to know those three things if you're going to do anything. But then you get into this. Do you know CSS? Do you need to know CSS? If you're going to know CSS, do you want to know Sass or less? Are you using Bootstrap? Bootstrap seems to be pretty common, and that's what a lot of people are doing. But there's also this thing called foundation or material or semantic UI. Like, how do you know that Bootstrap is the right thing for you? And then you've got responsive. Is it responsive? Does it move when you change the size of your screen? Are you going to use TypeScript? Are we using ES6? Probably. But what does that even mean? You got to pick a testing framework, a package management. Let's talk about this for just a second. We had NPM, then we went to Yarn, and everybody moved to Yarn. not everybody, but a lot. Now it seems like everybody's kind of back to npm, and so like I don't know which package manager I'm even supposed to learn. You should probably know both of them. It's only package management, right? It's not that hard. Oh, and for the record, there's a whole nother page here. We haven't even picked a framework yet. We haven't picked Angular or React. We haven't picked Redux or Webpack. Or do you need to use Webpack if you're like React? It's baked in. And now actually we have the Jamstack, which I only know by name. Again, I'm not a front end developer. I'm not up on it, but I do run a conference, KCDC, and we had a significant number of submissions on Jamstack this year. I should probably figure out what that is, right? And somebody, I am sure somebody very quickly in the Twitch stream is going to tell me what the Jamstack is, and that'd be great. I kind of do know. I'm just, but that's just for the front end, right? We're not even getting very far yet. We still have the back end, right? JavaScript APIs and markup. Thank you. But isn't that everything? Like that's the problem. So you say that about Jamstack, and I get JavaScript APIs and markup. That's literally every web application that exists in the history of man. Like that's how it works. So okay, but then you have backends, and here's the thing. Let me just tell you this right now. In order to be a successful front end developer, you need to know something from all of these. Like you just got to know, because that's your job, right? You've got to get in there and you've got to learn all this stuff, and you've got to get there, and people start to freak out, right? And so usually what I tell people right here is like, breathe. Just take a minute. I talk to new developers all the time, and they come up to me and they say, I feel like I don't know anything. Like I feel like I'm making progress, but the more I learn, the less I feel like I know. And my response to them always is just breathe. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I do this at what I think is a pretty high level with a lot of good companies. And I do things that are pretty complicated. And I don't know it all. The more I learn, the more I feel like I don't know. And that's the world we live in. Okay, so if you're a developer and you're struggling with this right now, I'm going to give you 3 words. They are quite possibly the greatest 3 words you will ever be able to say in your life, right? Are you ready for this? And this is freeing for a lot of people. I don't know. Right? The big difference between a senior developer and a mid-tier developer, when I'm interviewing people and I pose a question, the senior developers will say, I don't know. Completely with confidence. They don't know, not because they're dumb or because they're bad developers. They don't know because they just haven't looked at it yet. But they have confidence that they will be able to get there. The mid-tier developers or the junior developers, these 3 words freak them out. Because if they have to say the words, I don't know, then that means that they have somehow failed. Right? If you're in an interview and you ask them, hey, tell me about this solid principle, and to them saying, yeah, I don't know about that. That's failure to them. And what I need everybody who's watching this to get behind is this idea that it's okay to not know. So Don Morton, I don't know yet exactly right? Because guess what? You can look at this stuff up, right? Let me look at the docs. Whoever said that one, I saw it. That's all it takes, right? So I don't know are words that you as a developer should be able to say with certainty, because your experience may not be the same as what somebody else's experiences are. Right. And so if somebody comes up to me at a conference, and, I just gave a talk on GraphQL, or I just gave it, and they'll be like, hey, so when you're testing GraphQL with this thing, like how does this work? And there are 2 options for me at that moment. Either I have experience with that thing and I can answer their question, or I don't know. And either one of those 2 things are fine, because I can look at you and say, I don't know. I haven't had to deal with that yet. So go, so I can look it up and let me get back to you and we'll figure it out. So talk to me, Guzman. I like the concept. So he says, fake it till you make it. And there's some of that. It's not quite that easy. Because because what I want to get away from is the idea of you're not faking it, right? This is real. I know JavaScript. I know GraphQL. I know REST APIs. I know how to do all this stuff. But I don't know all of it. And I know it's okay. So kind of back to this mentality of just take a breath, right? And understand and realize that as junior developers or mid-tier developers or senior developers, I know senior developers who struggle with this concept of imposter syndrome was everywhere on the conference circuit over the last several years. Like everybody wanted to talk about imposter syndrome. And these are people who are like rock stars in the field. And they're dealing with imposter syndrome, and they're dealing with it because they struggle with that phrase, I don't know. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Right. Oh, Talk to Me Guzman says, I know GraphQL and I had to spend the day learning unions and then implementing it. Right. Now I kind of know it. Unions and GraphQL are hard, right? I mean, so, and this, what we do is hard. I mean, there's no way around it. We talk about whether it's easy to, we could just go to Stack Overflow and pull some code out. Now I've got a working website. It's not actually how it works. We like to make fun of ourselves, and that's fine. But what we do is hard. And so what I'm going to talk about for just a minute is two different directions that a lot of developers make. And it's not an either or thing, right? It's a you can do whatever you want kind of thing. All right. So here we go. One is specialization. So specialization is I'm going to do one thing, and I'm going to kind of churn through because I'm running way behind. Okay, so specialization is something where you pick one thing. Like I'm specialized. I only do JavaScript. That's it. That's all I do. And so what? Actually, that's a lie, right? I don't even do all of it. Like I do some React. I haven't looked at Vue. I haven't looked at Angular. I haven't looked at Jamstack. I haven't looked at any of that stuff. I do JavaScript core language, some of it, and I do some frameworks, some of it, and that's it. I don't do all of it. But I spend my time focused in one area, and I want to get better at that one area. Then you have your broad but shallow group, or your full stack developer group. That's the other side of this. Really, it takes both kinds of people. Like so the full stack developers can kind of touch everything. And so the way I kind of build my teams is I've got some front end specializations, and I've got some back end specializations, and then I've got a bunch of full stack developers that can be molded and guided by the people who are digging into either thing. And so that's yeah, so that's how I build my teams, and I let these people work together. And I don't expect my full stack devs to know the ins and outs of JavaScript. That's what my front end devs are for. But they can work together and collaborate, and they can both write JavaScript code. It's not like you're cutting off one side for the other. All right, so how do you keep up? I've got 7 minutes, probably 6 minutes now, to like give you a full kind of spectrum of things. So I want you to understand something. There is a difference between knowing something and knowing about something, right? I know JavaScript. I know about Docker, right? I could go do stuff in JavaScript right now. I know this thing called Docker exists, and I may want to be able to do something with it. And so those are two different things. And so let's talk about how I learn things. And I'm going to kind of clip through these pretty fast. So one, Reddit. Reddit is more than just GIFs, right? There's lots of great content out there, and I actually have a Reddit thread. And this is how I learn about things. So I have a tech subreddit that has all of the JavaScript stuff in it, React and JavaScript and front end, and And I just kind of watch and see the types of things that are on there. I don't learn everything that's on there, but I kind of say, hey, a lot of people are talking about this thing. I might want to look into it. Medium, I get back and forth on Medium, but I use Medium a lot. I just look at what people are talking about on JavaScript. I don't. I just look for the JavaScript thing, and I go and I read blogs there. Stack Overflow. We got Sarah Chips on here. She's emceeing this block. I don't know if most of you know this. I'm going to go on a limb and guess most of you don't. Stack Overflow has a front page, right? It's not just deep links into questions that have already been answered. They like have a front page where you can go and see what's going on. So what I like to do, if I'm trying to get better at something, I just go to like JavaScript and look at the questions, and then I try and answer questions. So some people, so maybe somebody's already answered the question. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to try and answer my own. So that's where I go to kind of learn what are the things people are asking about. GitHub. I look at GitHub stars on topics. Here's another thing. Did you know that Vue.js has 140? It's more than this now. 140,000 stars, and React has less than that. Like Vue.js has more stars on GitHub. So maybe Vue.js is something I should probably start to pay attention to. Right, that's something I want to look at. Or Bootstrap is still way up there. You want to go with that. How many of you, your commute looks like this? Probably none of you right now. Just throwing that out there. But they do say keeping your routines is important. So if you go spend, if you take the subway, just go hold on to your shower rod for 30 minutes, listen to podcasts. Right, here's another thing that a lot of people don't do that they could be. Now I'm gonna freak you out for just a second. So there's lists. If you look at best developer podcasts, you Google it, you'll get 500 lists of them, and they're all going to be different, right? And you are going to get hit with so many podcasts. .NET Rocks, Coding Blocks, Hansel Minutes, Herding Code. There's all of these, and they're all going to start throwing stuff at you, and you're going to freak out. Right, because now I said you're not going to know everything, and then I just threw 150 blog or podcasts at you. Said, hey, go listen to a podcast. Well, which one are you supposed to listen to, right? And here's the reality: it doesn't matter, right? You don't need to listen to all of them. Let your friends listen to some, and you listen to some, or whatever. Because if something is important and it's something you should be listening to, then they'll all be talking about it. Right? It's not like you have to listen to this podcast to get all the. If it's important, everybody's talking about it. So don't worry about all of them. Pick one that you like. I put that in there just for me, actually, honestly, because I get to talking really fast, and I need to stop for just a second. Okay. Conferences and meetups. We're gonna come back to that one day, I hope. That's usually, I've got a whole section in here on how to conference and all. But here's the thing: your meetups, the local meetups, a lot of people are trying to do that, them online. Join your meetups online and start to meet people. So when meetups go back to in person, you already have some people that you've been talking to get in. At some point, you have to know things. And I'm going to turn through a couple of options really quick because I've got 1 minute left. How do you learn things? I like Pluralsight. I'm a Pluralsight author, so I like to pitch Pluralsight, but some things are free. Like if you don't know about Free Code Camp and you want to learn JavaScript or something, go look at Free Code Camp. They've got a ton of content out there that's awesome. But honestly, most stuff's just not that hard, right? If you need to learn Docker, just go to their docs. If you need to learn Azure, go to docs.microsoft.com. Like, there's so much information out there that if you need to learn something, go to the website, look at the docs. It doesn't take very long. Half a day, you'll know it well enough to be able to be productive in it. You're not gonna be an expert, but you'll at least know some. I love this. Dan Abramov responds to people on Twitter. Like, we live in an open source community that is accessible by social media. And so use that to your advantage. Reach out to people. My DMs are open. If you got questions on Node or GraphQL or Apollo or something, just DM me. And I've got nothing else to do. I'm sitting at my desk over there 12 hours a day. I'm happy to respond. So kind of keep this in your mind, right? You're not going to be able to learn everything. You're just not. Work through the things that you can, and accept that it's okay to not worry about the things that you can't, right? And so that's kind of where I want to leave you is, like, you can do this. Spend a little bit of time digging in on some things that you may not know about that seem important based upon the things you're looking around, and dig in and go a little bit deeper on them. All right, I am way past time. I'm actually 1 minute past time, but I'm going to cut back. Thank you guys very much. My DMs are open, so you can hit me, Jonathan F. Mills, on Twitter, or yeah, that's actually probably the best way to do it. So thank you guys very much, and I'll kind of hang out in the chat for just a little bit.